All right, Danny. Well, welcome to the Unfiltered Healing Podcast. We're excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate being on here. We get to chop it up with you a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited. I had to press record because we were getting into the meat of our conversation before before we started chatting. Um, so we met Danny a few weeks ago at a health freedom event. And I know that you're very much a part of that community. You're on the East Coast and you're a part of the Health Freedom for Humanity on the East Coast, which is awesome. And I actually was following you and listening to some of your stuff before the event because of that community specifically. And, you know, the conversations that we sparked was something that I thought, justified a much bigger explanation and a much bigger conversation as far as what you're doing in your community and around your community and how that's going to shift culture and shift change in where we really need it. So, for listeners who have no idea who you are, why don't you give us a little bit about Danny? Did you always have an interest in like natural medicine, herbs, and things of that nature, or what got you into getting into herbs? Because now that's primarily what you're doing and helping people in your community with COVID and other things of that nature as well.
Right. So I guess we'll start at the aspect of how I got started. Well, I really was always interested in nature. I always believed that, there are so many different things naturally that we can adopt, use, engage ourselves in on a constant basis to really make us feel better as humans. My traditional education is social work, so sociology and psychology, focusing on the individual and their environment, has always been my MO, and I've always been a person that's highly empathetic and I want to help as many people as I can. I wanted to be a social worker out of college. But, you know, learning and seeing things, especially in regards to chronic health issues, I knew that there had to be other options. And really, the I want to say the straw that broke the camel's back, but I would say the ember that ignited the fire was my best friend's father passed away from cancer, and in that dealing, he was going back and forth if he was going to take chemotherapy or not, and he kind of said, "I'm not doing it," straight up, because he knew that it was so detrimental to the body. And I was like, well, there's got to be other ways that you can help individuals with cancer. I know I've seen this. I've heard many stories. I've seen on YouTube people sharing their experiences using other things. So I dove deep into that realm or that rabbit hole of how to help people recover from the detrimental effects of chemo and recover from cancer. Um, so that was kind of the creation process for my desire and passion for herbs themselves. And the first thing that I had fell into were cannabis extracts. And I knew that legalities would never allow me to, at least, let me not say never, but I'll just say legalities would not allow me at the time to use that powerful medicine. But I knew that there had to be others. And more research fell into medicinal mushrooms, fell into the term adaptogen herbs in general. And once I found out about adaptogens and kind of the criteria, which for any of the listeners that aren't familiar, they are very safe for short and long term use, right? So they don't have toxicity. They encourage balance within the body. So they help bring our body back into a state of homeostasis, which is extremely important when we're talking about our stress. And that's really the key aspect there, the stress reducing implications of these adaptogenic herbs is what makes them, bar none, in my opinion, the best of the best thing that we should consume on a daily basis. Because you ask any professional, no matter if they're in allopathic health or if they're in holistic or even if they're in psychiatric or psychology, they're going to tell you that stress is always at the core of any dysfunction or sickness.
Mhm. Yeah, everything is the root of stress. And there has to be, proper management, of course, but also herbs are great. Herbs are wonderful. I've been using them in my practice for many years. Um, and so after okay, so after you got introduced to herbs, then, what was the process of that afterwards?
So yeah, after that, it was a lot of research. Now this is the key aspect. It was looking at scientific articles, which were very enlightening, and I highly suggest people do that. However, you can definitely get lost in the different types of scientific articles out there because there's so many to make so many different claims. So what that inspired me to do was try to replicate what they're doing. You know, they have an herb, for example, chaga mushroom, using it in the case for antiviral properties, right? You can find a lot of research to substantiate this reality. Then looking at historical evidence, other cultures have used this in the same way. And then I wanted to see for myself, if somebody's sick with a viral infection, if I give them this chaga, will it help them? And I've gone through that process many different times with friends, family, and clients, and they're showing me that the scientific articles that have been written are actually true in real time based on their real experience. So that's really the key, I think. Experiments and experience is what leads you to any type of facts in general.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important for anyone to do their own research, but it's also hard. I was listening to another podcast of like this really famous researcher. His name is kind of escaping me right now, but he said there's actually so much research bias that it's almost sometimes really hard to find like those really good research articles that actually show the benefits of things because there's so much money in the pharmaceutical world and putting research into that. So it is really important for people to do their own research, but also to know that a lot of that stuff can be hidden. So also takes sometimes some education to know what exactly is the right route to look at that stuff, where to find it and things of that nature, so that people can be educated appropriately as well. Now, um, with the development and knowledge of that, and then seeing, changes in your family and friends, then what made you made the decision, okay, I'm going to make a company of this and I'm going to go full into this helping people business?
Yeah, there was an absolute need I saw based on giving it to people and seeing their reaction. Like first, they would take it and be like, "Oh, this is so bitter,"
Yeah.
and knowing humans, if if they take something that is not appeasing and it's offensive to their palate, they won't be consistent with taking the herbs. And
Mhm.
it just so happens to be the people that need herbs the most in regards to helping their metabolic health or helping reduce their stress or chronic issue, they just so happen to have their taste buds overtaken by sugary beverages. So having something bitter, even though they need it, they just won't be consistent with it. So what I decided to do was take these really bitter herbs and blend them with different juices and vitamins and sweeten it with a little of agave, and I created a beverage called the elixir. I call it Movers Elixir, and that is the name of the first business that I created, which was Movers Elixirs. And the the gist was convenience, flavor, and potency. So literally, it has all the vitamins and herbs combined with juices, and you just pour yourself a shot and you drink it, and then you're getting multiple birds with one stone. And it not only tastes good, but it's also giving your body extremely potent herbs necessary for immunity, digestion, and just overall well-being.
Yeah, the liquid form of herbs is definitely way more powerful and works way faster, but it's pretty brilliant to do it that way because I know from experience, like a lot of the liquid herbs that I use, yeah, they're super bitter. In my palate, like I'm totally fine because I don't do sugar much, but you will get in families and individuals that they compromise a lot of sugar, and people have no idea how much sugar is in their diet, and they can't really tolerate it, or you're right, they're not very compliant in that sense. So it is pretty brilliant, especially with kids. I mean, trying to get kids to take herbs is not always sometimes the easiest.
Right.
Uh,
That I'm telling you, it's difficult. It is so difficult, especially with these kids. Like I'm a dad. I have a 5-year-old son. But before I had a daycare. My wife and I had a daycare for about 8 years, and we would see tons of these children coming in, and obviously, the standard American family, they have the mom and dad both working. Obviously, there's not a high amount of cooking with really good foods just because
yeah.
time restraints and money uh, levels and convenience, etc. So we've seen a lot of children, and we know that it's just really common that they're not getting the sufficient nutrients necessary. Not to mention, you look at the stats of health, of obesity, of chronic health issues. I mean, the gambit of asthma to neurological to autoimmune to etc. It's really crazy, and we have to do something. And I know that having these herbs in someone's life, it just doesn't do anything else except improve it. And there's so many different ways in which it improves it.
Mhm.
I feel it's necessary to, I guess, because in my herbal Puritans, because in the herbal community, I have a lot of mentors, a lot of people that I listen to, a lot of people that I learn from. They tell me, make sure you stick to the core and don't bastardize or adulterate these beautiful herbs extracts. But I've taken a somewhat I yeah, a little pivot and it's like, look, it's a necessary evil. Sometimes you got to add in a little sweetness, a little agave, a little honey, a little something that's going to make the people enjoy it because that's the only way we're going to get the results once we have consistency and enjoyment and making it not a task or making it fun. Make it like, oh man, let me go drink my elixir shot today. That's how I pop my morning off, just like someone would have their cup of coffee. It's something enjoyable for them. Once they get into that habit, the changes in their life, in their first it starts off. Every person I've had this conversation with, and they've been starting taking the herbs for the first time, will tell me that the first thing that they notice is they just have more energy.
Mm.
Then sometimes they'll say they rest better. And if they have a specific health issue, like if you made something custom for that, um, then you start to see like really interesting things, especially when they go and get the lab work and they'll see like, oh man, my triglycerides have actually decreased, my white blood cells have actually increased. Like it's crazy how this stuff can actually work and you can measure it. But it takes the individual to take control of their own health. You are your best doctor as a person. No one knows you better than you do. So you need to know the options that can be in your toolkit and then know a little bit about your body and your anatomy and your immunity and how that stuff works. And then you can actually see real time how these herbs are working and how they're helping your body. Because looking at a stat or looking at a case study of random strangers doesn't quite apply to you. So knowing a little bit of the safety is important. Knowing a little bit about your body and how it's supposed to work is really important. And then you have that knowledge, you have that item, and then you can consume it. And then the self awareness of how is this making me feel, that literally gives everything that you need to know that these herbs they're amazing.
Yeah, they're God's gifts, and, like, I think what you're talking about is that kind of momentum door. So, when you open up, whether it's an herb or something else, we're just talking specifically about herbs today, and someone starts to see a shift in themselves because people get really comfortable in how they feel, then it kind of opens up that momentum door and you're like, wow, I do really feel different, or I'm sleeping better, or my stress level is down, my digestion's better, whatever it is that's lowering that threshold, so that in essence provides momentum for the next step. Okay, well, now I'm going to focus a little bit more on eating a little bit better, or whatever it is, it opens that momentum door to be able to do that. And that's the great thing about opening up and providing that into communities that maybe don't have that accessibility for that type of care. Now, with kind of like your sales and how things have projected, because I know kind of we just talked about before we were recording how your business is kind of exploding, which is an awesome thing. Um, is that are you finding that that's more kind of locally where you're at, or are you finding it's kind of going out to lots of different regions? What are you finding as far as the growth of what's happening right now with what you're doing?
There has been a lot of interest in new clients and customers all over the country.
Mhm,
Right now, I've seen a huge influx in local business because of word of mouth, which is really crazy. I haven't done any marketing or really any advertising. It's only been word of mouth. So, we got the moms and the Crunchy Mom Facebook groups. Oh man, they are catalysts.
yeah,
Because what else?
of
I'll
course.
tell you, those moms, they stick together. And
Yeah,
once one of them experiences like some extreme benefit to their life, they will share it, and then it moves like wildfire. So that's definitely been something I've noticed locally, but California has been very hot in these regards to ordering. Since I mean, almost probably 40 states. I think there's about 10 states that we haven't shipped out to, but we ship all over. Um, and like I was saying before we started recording, there's definitely a correlation between the propaganda and sickness and sales for me.
mhm,
So, in one aspect, right, this is a crazy position to be in because financially, I am benefiting from people being afraid of the lies that are being told on television, which is
mm,
really crazy because I'm trying to literally undermine my own sales by explaining to people that there's a lot more things that we should be considering instead of having much fear about what is being told to us. But at the end of the day, I know the the truth of my value, my wealth is going to be determined by the amount of people that I've benefited.
mm,
So, I just look at it as like that. The more people that are healing and recovering and taking their health into their own hands, that translates into, more sales for us, which in turn gives us the opportunity and I guess you would say, the capital to run our case studies and to advance our herbal sciences, because that's something I think it's at the core for me, and being involved in health freedom for humanity and being involved in activism in general, to bring more awareness is to really create a fundamental foundational step for people to understand that these herbs are extremely useful in every aspect of society, and they shouldn't be looked at as if they're some type of drug. They're not used in order to treat someone who's already sick. They are supposed to be used on a daily basis as if they are a food source to make sure that we don't fall into that uh, pattern of expressing a lot of symptoms from the sickness.
mhm,
It's a really key it's a key point that we have to make a differentiation here because I know in my experience there's a lot of confusion and even on medical professional side because at this point I'm trying to cater my business to doctors, and also to individuals. I mean, because having clinics that can provide people with high quality herbs is important, just like and providing high quality herbs to individuals. But the terminology, dosages, and there's a big dosage and serving size. They're technically saying the same thing, but one is the implication of a medicine, and one is the implication of what actually herbs are, which are food. And yeah, this
yeah.
is one of the things that I've seen a lot within the country. And I'm doing my best to try to find that middle ground between allopathic medicine and then herbalism and holistic health in general. And it's a journey, but it's fun as we go through this learning curve.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey. That's really an important key. And a lot of people, a lot of the meds that we have, a lot of the pharmaceuticals that, allopathic medicine uses, it's all derived from plants. So, I mean, that's kind of the basis of how medicine started. It's not like herbs and plants and these things are like a newfound discovery. Like these things have been around for many, many years. Um, But unfortunately, with, money and insurance and pharmaceutical companies coming into play, they twist and they modify those plants and they use them into things. And some of those are life-changing things like insulin and stuff like that. We're not disregarding that. But other of these medications can be twist and turn and cause actually more health implications, which then causes people and individuals to rely on them. So as far as, like, in, your family, as you're incorporating that in your friends and your community, has there been, like, has there been a lot of, like, welcome to this topic? Has there been, um, people open to doing what you're talking about?
I would say now, yes.
Mhm.
But it took years. It took a long time for people to actually recognize, at least in my immediate circle, I would say. I think, you know, everyone that I know, they knew me, for being a care provider for children, even adults. I did things that were not in respect or direct alignment with the health field or like medical health, even
Mm,
though herbs and medical health are not the same. Now they kind of put me in that category, and it's new for at least the people that I know that have known me for many years. So even though I've been, I would say, a journeyman herbalist, right? It's been about 6 years that I've been actively researching and using herbs consistently. Um, so yeah, the adoption of the herbs, it took a little bit of time, but after a couple of people see, oh wow, I feel better, and then they just say that to somebody else, that's it has gone critical mass now, and they look at me as if, like I said, I'm like some type of magical wizard with these potions that can just fix every problem. I try to have fun with it because that's magical. Uh, Herbs are really cool. And it's actually the genesis of me creating the name for my company. Like I used to play these video games when I was in school. And in the games, they would have these little avatars, and you would do these missions. And in order to complete the mission in a timely manner or without like getting hurt, you would take these potions and you would replenish yourself, and you'll have more energy or strength or
right.
stamina in order to complete that mission. I was like, yo, let's do that in real time. I think we can actually do that. And
Like a Mario
that
mushroom?
was kind of the gist of it, like a Mario mushroom. You get bigger and stronger. And yeah, it's been fun having to be able to do that. And I know it's necessary to kind of build off another part of your question you asked before that I didn't mention is the community, our community, especially I'm in the Northeast, right? I'm in outside of New York. I just moved out of New York
Mhm,
2020 when everything was hitting the fan because I
mhm,
knew it was just going to be bad. So
mhm,
I'm in Northern Jersey now, but I still have a lot of clients and customers that are in Brooklyn. They're in the projects. They're in low income housing. People in Queens and in the Bronx, and to see the disparity of what is actually available for them to use. A lot of people would think it's simple to just go to the store and get some organic vegetables, but if you live in a project, like there's nothing but corner stores around there, and yeah, they may have some produce there, but it's not organic. And then it's just there's a lot of issues in regards to telling people in those scenarios to just eat better, eat clean, take care of yourself. Like those are it's a little insensitive for individuals to think that that's just a simple option, even though in theory that is true. If you take care of yourself, you eat better, you'll have better health outcomes. But the
Mhm.
reality doesn't really make that a applicable thing. So I've at least I've tried my best to make sure that individuals in the projects, individuals that are in low income housing, they have access to the herbs that we have. And we send herbs for free. We send donations. We do all that we can, under our charity, which is Match Philanthropies. We do case studies now for people that are experiencing long haul issues. Um, I've sent out herbs over to people with cancer that haven't had any real solutions from doctors. And I do my best to try to just get these herbs out to people that need them, and especially for the people that really can't afford them at the time for whatever reasons. I don't want money to be a reason why you don't have access to something that can be really beneficial for you, especially when this is something that they can get. And I've been blessed to be in a position to actually send some stuff out. So I'll do what I can. Especially with more orders, more people supporting the herbal sciences, more donations over to our charity, more people spreading the word. It just gives our business the room to grow, and when our business grows, so does our charitable givings. So it's been actually really cool to see the circle of sales going into donations, into people getting healthier, and doing our part to uplift humanity.
Yeah, that's so powerful, and that's what kind of sparked our conversation at the event is, it's a beautiful, like, grassroots type of movement, and I think that's what has to happen in communities for things to shift is, people don't recognize that there is not as much accessibility in impoverished communities or just like inner city communities and things of that nature. There's not accessibility. They've got fast food, they've got, things of that nature, and there's no accessibility to get organic things or other types of options. So it can be very limiting for them to be able to do that. And it actually reminds me, someone was telling me about this a couple days ago that there was a doctor in San Francisco. I don't know when this is, so I got to look it up and I'll send it to you. That basically brought herbs into like an inner city community of San Francisco and taught them like how to grow herbs and how to produce herbs. And it changed like an entire community within San Francisco. And that reminded me of you when I was like excited to talk about this conversation, and those types of grassroots movements is it's accessibility, but it's also what you're talking about is an understanding as there's more than just this, and making it accessible is huge, and that's such a beautiful thing to be able to do that. And there's other people that are doing movements like that as well, and that's what has to be able to change in getting accessibility to these communities. So that's why we want to support you and support these causes as much as we can. Um, on the other side of accessibility, which is huge, there's also the part of within these communities of um, big pharma having a big stake in these communities as well and promoting, like you said, a lot of fear. And that also plays, I believe, a huge role in this portion too. So there's like the inaccessibility. There's also an inaccessibility to sometimes even hear other types of treatments, other types of alternative cares, hear other availability to herbs and things of that nature. Um, and then there's like this pushingness of everywhere they see in their neighborhoods or when they do go to their conventional doctors of pushing meds, pushing vaccines, pushing things of that nature. So, is that something that you have kind of experienced in your life or in your family? Are there things that you have seen there that have also been prominent in what you've seen in your communities as well?
Absolutely. The Propaganda, the idea of pharmaceutical interests controlling what everyone hears and sees and believes,
Mhm.
that is the scariest thing I have ever seen in my life. And having a background in sociology, psychology, understanding individuals and their environment and how it processes on how they think and behave and the things that they do and say. There has never been at any time uh, psychological manipulation to this extent, and that is really scary. And watching it happen to people in my family, and I mean, honestly, it's very hard to not fall under this spell. It's very hard to ignore what's being pushed because it's on every TV station. It's on every news station. It's on every radio station. It's on the billboards. It's on the buses. Like
Mhm.
it's on the trains. Like
Mhm.
everywhere they go, you're just being told. Even if you don't pay attention to it subconsciously, you see, go get the shot, go give your kids the shot, get boosted. Every single place the pharmaceutical hand has pushed a narrative on the population, and it's just not possible for anyone to think freely or logically when they're surrounded by full out misinformation. And the fact is, they're admitting the misinformation later, but still the propaganda and the signs are still up. So even if they're telling the truth now, the lies have already been tattooed all over the society, all over New York City, all over the billboards, all over the train station. Like, what can you possibly do if you are a regular working person trying to make a living and all of this is telling you one thing, your boss is saying the same thing, your mayor is saying the same thing, your doctor is saying the same thing, like you would in a logical society, you would have to be insane to ignore everything that they're telling you. But this is not a logical society right now. It's clearly upside down because they're going so hard. And this is one thing I always like to. I try to make this statement as clear as possible because um, I do believe that there's some type of benefit of using allopathic medicines, and some range of people may actually benefit from taking this injection. I'm not saying that it is totally terrible and everyone is going to die, but the fact that they are ignoring any person that is experiencing negative effects and washing it under the rug as if this is not something that's actually causing acute issues while not even paying attention to the possible long term issues, that right there is egregiously negligent. And it is not in the best interest of science. And even the people that are supposed to be reporting what's happening are they're dropping the ball there. So I mean, there's so many layers of of improper protocols, of lies, of just dirty behavior, corruption. It's really, really difficult to watch the New York City and now fighting on behalf of New Jersey because there's a big difference between New York and New Jersey. All
Yeah.
right, New Jersey has a little bit of common sense left. New York is full on crazy. It's full on wild, and they are bigotry. They're practicing bigotry in public establishments.
Mhm.
New Jersey, they're trying to do the same thing in the state house buildings, keeping out certain political figures if they don't show their papers, which is it's wild in itself. But let's I do my best to stay out of the political realm because I have no interest there, and I think it's all corrupt and nasty, right? But to see that this is happening to the elected officials. If the elected officials can't get inside their place of business, then they can't reflect what the people want. So that is actually pretty damn scary if your elected official is not allowed to go in there and speak on your behalf because they don't have their own paper, their injection papers or whatever. But it is this is one of the craziest times we could ever be in. Honestly, it's the civil rights of the '60s blended with other social injustices all combined into one nasty scenario in which the people have to stand firm and just live in reality. We
Yeah.
cannot allow anyone else to tell us that what we know is not like what we're seeing, and the correlations that we're seeing are totally irrelevant. And we have to force the people that are making these rules to double back and look at what they've done wrong. Like, because if we don't make them look at what they've done wrong, then they'll continue to keep doing wrong with no recourse. They've been wrong so many times, but we've not held them accountable for that. They're just going to continue to tell us it's raining while they sprinkle us with urine. Like it's crazy what's happening
Yeah, it's really come to a full head. I mean, there's parts of this what's been happening that's been happening for quite some time. I mean, let's be honest, the track record of the pharmaceutical company is not very good. If we're gonna be honest, you know, um, there's many examples we could give, like even in just communities of color. We've gone over those, like the Tuskegee experiment. There's the experiment in the '80s where they did in LA with African American and Latino children. Like, there's just so many where the track record is not, it's really bad. Um, but still, there's been, and people I don't think understand that there's been many years of that kind of leading up to this point in time. Um, where then it was just mass, like, control. But it's been happening for many years. I mean, the record is there. Um, so with that being said, in, you know, communities where they feel, do you think it's that they feel that there's really no other option in this sense? I mean, obviously there's the portion of fear, and like you said, it's basically blasted everywhere. Um, is it that individuals feel like they don't have options? Do you think that's the biggest component of it?
there. There is a huge component of it. They have literally blocked off any other potential options that no one believes outside of the individuals that are going out of their way to search. There will never anybody else. They won't ever hear that a chaga mushroom can stimulate interferon, which can block viral replication. You'll never hear that anyplace unless you actually go and look for it. They'll never talk about astragalus having antiviral properties to enhance T cells to stop viral replication. That stuff is not coming out anywhere unless you literally know how to search for scholarly articles, you know how to read scholarly articles, and then you know how to find good sources of the herbs. Like you have to do every step of the work in order to find any other option. And then when you find the option and you search the option, they'll try to tell you that the option is not valid because there's not enough research.
Yeah.
So it's compound. They're compounding how they're going to deceive you and remove and then discredit the validity of these herbs that clearly are working and clearly are not hurting. And that's one of the key aspects because once they once the masses know that there are options that are not toxic that you can use in order to help your immune function, then the entire premise of an emergency use authorization crumbles. There's no
Mhm.
more emergency if you have valid and available solutions that can help people stay out of the hospital and the morgue. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We're on the same page. That's the thing. Like
Yeah.
people think like you're trying to create a division of anti-vax and anti-science and whatever. Like no, like we all want the same thing. Everybody wants this pandemic to essentially be over. We don't want. I'm not playing personally. I'm no longer playing that game. Like
Mhm.
this is done for me. But because I know all the options, I know, well, not all of them, but I've seen several solutions. and it takes the bite out of everything that they're trying to push. As soon as your immune enhancement is up, this the fear level has to go down. It's just looking at how the basics of how our anatomy works. It's like arithmetic, like one plus one equals two. You have functional innate immune response, then a replication of quote unquote this new virus is not going to hurt you. So that's yeah, man. It's a lot of problems based on ignorance and purposefully placed ignorance. And,
Yes.
and it's been used, been weaponized against my people, and I don't like that. And I hate the reality that we have moms, single moms, we got dads, we got even kids now. They like, oh, I can't if I don't do this, then I can't get an education, or I can't go back to work, or I can't. Like they've used experimental medical procedure to blackmail people. That's wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
So I really really have a large disdain, and creating the education part is all I can do, and trying as best as I can.
Yeah, and that's why we have conversations like we do, and we have to find other outlets, because that is the whole point, is that this information is blocked. And you could go into the doctors of those communities and you could say these things and they would disregard it. Or, one of my favorite quotes is Robert F. Kennedy, which is your education does not stop when you enter your doctor's door. And that's really hard if you don't know where to find the education, or like you said, everything that we talk about is censored or blocked or deplatformed. Um, or maybe, individuals don't see individuals of their same ethnicity talking about this stuff, and that can cause a lot of distrust in communities as well. And, I don't blame them. The track record is not so hot, for coming into those communities and doing experimental things. It's been done over time. So that's why, it's important to have these conversations to be able to talk on different platforms and get the word out to more communities as much as we can to be able to provide this life saving information for them. Talk a little bit about how your case studies are going as far as what you're doing with your herbs and COVID.
Yeah, the case studies, they're really fun. To see these people, we empower the people. That's the key. So the case study itself
Mhm.
is we're providing a month-long supply of the elixirs for the folks that have had long haul issues after their initial COVID infection. So the long haulers. That's where we had started the case study. And what we do is send them a questionnaire. They fill it out. They agree to willingly be a participant in the case study. They also agree to monitor themselves, and we have weekly follow ups. So each week, we will either do a quick Zoom call or a Telegram group conference, and we'll just talk about any changes, any negative effects, anything that you're noticing. Then they fill out another survey, and after the 4 weeks, we compile the information from when they started to how they feel at the end, and they have efficiently become a social scientist. So they've done the science, they've gone through the scientific method, and they took themselves at these experiments, and they recorded what they were experiencing, and we compile that data. And so far, all the information that we've received from people that are experiencing long haul issues, they have experienced some benefits, and it varies depending on how bad their initial issues were. But it's been remarkable to see that these things actually help with, the respiratory distress, the long lasting fatigue, um, sometimes the gastrointestinal issues, the inability to sleep, loss of hair was a big one. That was very odd for
Mm.
me. I didn't expect that was going to be an issue for people, but we had several hairdressers that were in our case study trials, and they all reported like, look, when we're seeing people are losing massive amounts of hair, based off of having initial COVID infection. So that was something like that's a notable piece of information
Yeah.
that we've been working with and seeing some benefits from. I know that's huge for the female audience. Oh man, they be losing it. If their hair falls out, oh shoot, it's the end of the world, right? You might as well your kidney be failing. But um, yeah, we've seen a lot of benefit in that one, but now we have decided based on what we're seeing in the world, based on open VAERS at a million vaccine adverse events at this point
Hmm.
in January 2022. So now we're going to be opening our case study for individuals that have been injured from the vaccine or the liability free nanotechnology injection. That's what I like. I don't, it's not a freaking vaccine. So, I mean, I just say that out of convenience, but I
Yeah.
guess it's important to note for the listeners, this is not what they're calling it. It is a medical procedure that involves nanotechnology and a microscopic intracellular surgical procedure that makes you produce foreign proteins. All right, that's not a vaccine in any case. But I mean, I don't think they all do that, but several of them do that, and that's the majority of the people that are taking it are taking those, and
Right.
that is not a good thing. I think for the long term for us, for the individual and for the whole, because when you don't know how this is going to affect how you're going to produce other things in society or not produce other things in society when it comes to like fertility and things like that. So, yeah, I lost track. What was the original question?
That's all right. I'm gonna tail it off of that. I was gonna say, preach, man. Come on, preach. Uh, yeah, it's crazy, and this is like, I mean, the virus in itself is not a natural thing, anyways, and so all of this stuff that people experience, you got to go back to kind of what you said in the beginning, is going back to those root things that are how a person functions, and the more you feed into it, the more symptoms someone will eventually process. um but yeah, it is an experiment, and there are things we just don't know. And people were put into that, mostly based out of fear. And I've been treating, I mean, I'm in California, so it's not really all that different from New York as far as the pandemonium. I've seen a lot of vaccine injured people and patients as well, and trying to do my part as well to help them overcome some of the effects of that. And we just don't really know what's fully going to happen, but we try to do our best, and we try to do our part as to what we can to help people, and then educate them. Hey, this is really what's happening from them. Um, I forgot what I was going to ask after that. I kind of got on a rabbit trail too. Um, so as far as for individuals, um, like in communities, and they're seeing some of these things, they've seen kind of things that have happened, what would be some advice that you would give someone um, that is maybe seeing corruption, seeing things within their community or not within their community and their family? There's been so much division. It's been a tough couple of years of division within, even talking about these types of topics. And we always do have to come back to a place of love, and bring it back to that. But how would you encourage someone who's maybe very inspired by what you're doing, and is like, man, I want to fill a need like that too? What's some advice that you would give from more of like a grassroots type culture that you're developing?
That's a good question because there's a couple of different things to really create, I guess, the culture that's necessary for us, which is self healing and self empowerment. And there comes twofold, right? I know that there's going to be massive amounts of people, especially in the traditional health field, like the nurses that obviously have some common sense and a moral compass. Um, they I think it's imperative for them to start really picking up holistic and alternative methods of understanding health. I
Yeah.
think herbalism is one of the easiest, it's one of the safest, and it's honestly, it's almost like nutrition sciences. And if you can incorporate that into your learning base, you'll set yourself apart from the rest of the nurses out there, and you open yourself to the opportunity to be a producer of either a product or a service in regards to holistically helping your community. So, I know nurses, they get a pretty penny, and if they're not working in the health field, then they're kind of lost. But you can create another stream of revenue by increasing your knowledge base and working with other professionals out here. Like myself, I'm looking for nurses because I will be creating a workstation, if you will, in Jersey, in northern New Jersey. And even right now, I have some doctors that are working alongside me that really know what's going on in regards to holistically healing, or at least helping people empower themselves with herbal supplements and teas and juices and the things necessary, or what I call foods.
Hmm.
So we have the people that want to learn and be producers, which I want to facilitate that. I think that's probably the most important aspect for us right now, because we have tons of people. Everyone that has no knowledge of what herbs can do, they're a consumer. They are a potential consumer. They should be consumers of herbs. So we need to make sure that we have enough producers of the knowledge and the actual tools themselves to fill that void, because there's more demand than supply, and that comes from real time right now. As a herbal entrepreneur, I'm sold out of herbs because demand is so high.
Yeah.
So I see being a purveyor of knowledge. So I'll be working on online courses, and I do one-on-one sessions for a lot of people as well, just kind of teaching the basis of herbalism and the basis of like the healing aspects of anatomy. That is major. So like in this point, matter of fact, I feel like we're way past the point that everyone have should have dedicated at least an hour or two to understanding their anatomy, at least the basis of the immune function, because every place, I mean, it's crazy and criminal to hear that a doctor will tell you there's nothing that you can do to enhance your immunity. Like, that's crazy. I can't believe that they're allowed to say something like that. And then people like taking that hook, line, and sinker. Oh, my immunity is like your immunity is constantly changing. Like, how do you think that it's impossible not to change it for the better? It's pretty crazy there, but that is one of the things that we're trying to combat with knowledge and information and education. And
Yeah.
then we have the other side, which is just regular folks, which that don't have a profession in the health fields, but they can also get involved by growing. I think this is a really major key that is a huge gold mine opportunity for any entrepreneur, anybody that just, even if they don't want to be out there as an entrepreneur, you can grow medicinal mushrooms. And it doesn't take a lot of time or a lot of resources or a lot of space. And you can actually grow these things and provide these things for others, and they can eat them or they can make extracts from them. Like, we need a hierarchy of levels of commerce, and we have to be the producers of that on a grassroots level as individuals. So there's in all businesses, there's systems, there's infrastructures, there's ways that the money is grown, sales, etc. We need to do that as individuals, as family members, as households. You can have one household can grow a bunch of microgreens, or one household can grow a bunch of oyster mushrooms. Another household can grow a bunch of reishi mushrooms, and and people think that this is something that's very difficult to do, but I I grew some reishi mushrooms like in my laundry room. I grew some reishi mushrooms in my laundry room, and I didn't pay much attention to it for almost 3 months. So like they literally are so low maintenance, and it's something that's so simple that people can do and produce, and it gives them a sense of um, pride because it's empowering that you created something that is
Yes.
so powerful.
Yeah.
And then it also gives you an instant tool that you can take, either slice up, brew into a tea, or give over to somebody else that can do an extraction for you and then get yourself a tincture, or you can do the extraction yourself. I mean, education right now into the oldest healing modality, which is herbalism, is paramount, and everyone can do this, and you don't need a medical degree or a special certification. Even though having certifications is extremely important, so you can understand what you're talking about. But if you, as an individual, like you don't have to be a chef in order to cook your own meals.
Mhm.
That's essentially the point that I'm making. Like you can grow some medicinal herbs and make sure that the ones that you're growing have a clear history of safe use. You use that, and you have just done more than 85% of America to take care of yourself.
Yes, community, community, community. Yeah, that was a phenomenal answer. And basically, the need is there. Like you said, the need is there. The availability can be there. And so we just need more people on board to be able to take that step and be like, yeah, I'm going to do that and be part of this community. And that's essentially how things spring and come forth. Yeah. So it's beautiful. Well, we
Absolutely.
love what you're doing. We love the passion that you have and what you're doing not only for your community but for your legacy. See you like teaching your son things, which is such a beautiful thing to watch. Um, so how do people find you? How do they follow you? Where can they get some of these powerful, amazing herbs? Why don't you give a little shout out about that to how people can find you?
Okay. Well, my name is Danny. I go by the People's Herbalist on Instagram. So if you type in the People's Herbalist with an underscore at the end, you'll be able to find my page. You're probably gonna have to type it all the way through because I am shadow banned for letting out this information that directly impacts the bottom line of pharmaceutical interests, but
Yeah.
I'm still there, and you can find me there. You can send me a DM. I'll get back to you when I can. But you can find me on our web store, which is parrotbeverages.com, which is parrot with two T's, beverages.com. And from there, you can find a lot of information about the herbs that we're using. You can find information about our case study. You can find information about all of our products there as well, because we have not just herbal extracts, but we also have shilajit. We have different elixirs and ambrosia potions, all kinds of goodies. But yeah, check us out on the web store. Check me out on the IG. And yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me.
Yeah, if you've been shadow banned, you're just now part of the group. Well, welcome to the group. And they can also find you on Health Freedom for Humanity, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. You can find me on the healthfreedomforhumanity.org page. I am one of the executive board members for the organization. So I work with Alex Zek and the rest of the band in order to make this organization go in the direction that we see it going, and making sure that the people are at the root of growing it, controlling it, and making sure that we're being inclusive and not divisive. So yeah, I'm very proud of the organization from where we have come, based on where we are now, based on where we came, because we've done leaps and bounds, building communities all over in many states. We have chapters that are active. So it's been a ride, and it's been very very empowering to see people actually stepping up.
Yes, yes. Well, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out today and chatting with me a little bit. I'm going to send you all the prayers and all of the hopes to continue excelling and having prosperity in what you're doing. And we want to encourage a lot of other people to start up things too in this process and in this time that we're living. So thank you for everyone that's tuning in, and we'll see you next time.